Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff MacLeod, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. Thanks for joining me once again. Today, I am going to share my review of Pendragon 6th edition, The Grey Knight from Chaosium Inc. This is written by the late Larry DiTilio, with artwork provided by Loic Musi, Dimitar Stoyanov, Hannah Elizabeth, Josip Perez, and Matilda Marlowe. And I apologize, I guarantee I've mispronounced at least two of those names. This 86-page hardcover is available now, carries an MSRP of $29.99. Now, if you order from Chaosium Inc., you will receive the PDF absolutely free. Now, if you're looking just to pick up the PDF alone, you can do so over at Drive-Thru RPG for $14.99. All that said, let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got The Grey Knight for Pendragon 6th edition. Few things I want to mention before we get started. First of all, my friends over at Chaosium Inc. were kind enough to provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this review with you. These days, it's important you know that. We're also not going to look at each and every page of this campaign, but I do want to give you a really good feel for what you're going to find inside The Grey Knight. Lastly, this is an adventure campaign, so if you are a player and your game master has picked this up, or maybe they're talking about picking this up, by all means, I would definitely recommend tune out now because there are going to be some spoilers. I try to stay away from spoilers normally, but there are going to be some spoilers here. So you don't want any of the surprises of the campaign ruined simply because you are watching this video. Now, of course, if your game master is considering picking this up, by all means, let them know about this video so they can approach the Grey Knight and make a far more informed buying decision. So the first thing we're going to do is take a peek at the credit page. Quite a few people worked hard to bring this to fruition. And interestingly enough, this adventure originally came out, if I remember correctly, I want to say it's 1986. I had the original Pendragon. I don't remember picking this up. I remember picking up other releases for Pendragon. Strangely enough, I guess I did not get this adventure. Kind of surprising. So this is a short campaign designed for the new edition of Pendragon, and it includes a couple of adventures to bridge from the short campaign that was in the starter set to the Grey Knight. So there are a couple of relatively short adventures. The first actually ties into the campaign quite a bit. The second, not as much. But the player knights get to establish themselves and their reputation, as well as have an opportunity to meet some rather famous entities in the Arthurian legends, such as King Pellinor. So these prologues will move us into the main campaign. And I will point out that the campaign hinges on an aspect of Arthurian legend that I've never really liked. It was actually something that had been brought into the legend late in the cycle. So it's after the introduction of Sir Lancelot. And it's the issue of the May babies. So if you are not familiar with the May babies, there's a tale that when Arthur is essentially the boy king, Merlin prophesizes that a baby born in May or on May 1st, one of the two, is destined to bring the downfall of Arthur. And Arthur either agrees to have Merlin and Nimue go and collect all the babies born on May 1st or during the month of May, and they're either put to death or they are sent off somewhere else. Supposedly, they're placed on a ship and the ship sinks. Now, is it intentional that the ship sank? There's all different takes on this aspect of Arthurian legend. And the thing is, I've never liked it. I've never liked the concept of the May babies because it paints Arthur as a pretty despicable character. And here he's supposed to be just this revered king. But the interesting aspect of this adventure is depending on what takes place in this adventure will determine if the rumors are true or not. And I like that quite a lot. So this queen comes to court. Now, Camelot hasn't been built yet. This is early in the marriage of Arthur and Guinevere. And she accuses Arthur of having done this, having these babies slaughtered. And Sir Gawain steps up to champion the king. And they're given until Pentecost, where the Grey Knight is going to battle Sir Gawain. And of course, if Gawain wins, then the accusation is false. And if he loses, then the accusation is true. So what happens here is that the player characters set off to find this treasure. And all these knights go off in search of these 13 different treasures, which might be able to assist Sir Gawain. And the player characters just happen to find themselves going off in search of the treasure that really will determine Gawain's success or failure battling the Grey Knight. So, of course, the player knights will find themselves encountering a variety of different interesting set pieces. Some of them are really, really cool. Some of them are a little odd, which I'm fine with. That's okay. And one interesting aspect is once the player knights hopefully have obtained this treasure and they're trying to return before the Pentecost celebration or feast, I guess I should say, where this combat is going to take place, all of a sudden, all these other factors come into play trying to stop them from getting back in time. So I like that quite a bit. You can really ratchet up the tension knowing that the players only have so much time to take care of this. So I really like that quite a bit. So the campaign in itself, I like. I think it's really interesting and it ties in so well to the Arthurian legend. Plus, the player knights get to rub elbows with the big movers and shakers like King Arthur and Queen Guinevere and Merlin and Gawain and others, Sir Kay. There's kind of a running gag where they keep running into Sir Kay and they're just a pain in his ass. So I like that quite a bit too. Now, one thing that some people will not be too keen on is going to be just how Pendragon operates as a role-playing game. Because there are aspects to Pendragon that are very, very different than any other role-playing game out there. And it is the traits and passions of the player knights, where the players actually will roll dice, which will determine the actions that their knights sometimes will take, because there are times when the player knights are going to be just subject to their passions and the various different traits. So are they merciful or are they cruel? In situations where something like that might arise, they're going to have to roll. Now, I know there are some folks out there who aren't not too keen on that aspect of Pendragon, but in my opinion, that is one of the ways that Pendragon really has always encompassed the Arthurian legend, because in the legends, these people are driven by big actions, big passions. There's not a lot of ho-hum, well, geez, I don't know. I haven't made up my mind yet. No, not at all. We'll wrap up with some handouts. And Artwork throughout, solid, if uneven. The page quality, really nice. It's the same sort of paper stock that we saw in the brand new core rulebook. So that's very cool as well. This should hold up very nicely. As the campaign itself, I would think probably looking at the bridging adventures as well as the campaign, maybe 5 decently linked sessions to complete. That's kind of a ballpark, I would think. So you are going to get a good amount of gameplay out of these 86 pages. Right, so that's a look at the Grey Knight. Let's swing on over to the other camera because I'm going to share some final thoughts as well as my review score. There are a few things that I am not overly keen with this adventure. And one aspect is you can really tell that it was written in the 1980s. Now, going through the adventure itself, there are points in time where certain player knights are going to find their quests come to an end simply because of a bad die roll. That I do not like. Now, as the game master, there are ways for you to mitigate that, but there are a few set pieces in this campaign that if a player knight or more in the group fails a die roll, well, that's it. Their adventure is over, and I don't necessarily like that. I will also point out that, to me at least, it feels like this campaign really does hinge a lot on dice rolls. So one of the aspects, as I just mentioned, that some people aren't too keen on is the passions and traits. Although, like I said, I think it's a selling point of Pendragon. In this campaign, I think there are some points in the various different encounters where things really hinge on somebody's die roll. Now, not to the point where it's like, well, your quest is over, but where things can become much, much stickier for the player knights simply because of a single bad roll. So I've got some quibbles with that. Strangely enough, this also feels kind of rushed. So there are some references to the Pendragon Player's Handbook, which we know is now the core rulebook. And then there are references to the core rulebook. Weirdly enough, there are some references too made to the GM's Handbook, which I believe is slated for a release in, unfortunately, 2025. So it's a bit of a ways out. So there are some aspects that, like I said, makes this feel rushed. One is that there are more typos in this book than I think I've seen in any Chaosium Inc. product ever. There aren't a ton, and it's not like we've got a lot of grammatical errors which really jump out at you. But you do notice some of the typos that are in here after a while, and I was kind of like, kind of surprised. Like I said, feels a little bit rushed. But all in all, I think this campaign really does capture the feel of a Legend of King Arthur. I really like it. There are minor characters that play really big roles in this campaign that are from the Legends of Camelot. They aren't just made up on the fly. So I like that quite a bit. And I love the fact that the player knights are invested in this tale. They are knights. They aren't just, people standing by who somehow get sucked into an adventure. Not at all. And by the end of the adventure, if the players are successful in the quest, they're going to have quite a bit of glory, quite a bit of renown, and they very well might be on their way to becoming Knights of the Round Table. I love that. I think that is fantastic. Also want to point out this fits in very nicely with the Great Pendragon campaign, which I'm hoping we will see in the next year or so. I got to be honest, I'm not sure what's going on with that. I haven't really dug too deeply into it, but I guarantee that will be released for the 6th edition of Pendragon because previous editions were just amazing. So nice to know that this campaign just slots right on into that. Something else I really like about Pendragon itself is everybody's Pendragon is going to be different. So the way the legends will play out in your gameplay is going to be different than how things play out in other people's. So I think that is very cool too. Although I will point out that this adventure is essentially the definition of linear. That doesn't make it bad. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but do want to mention that it is point A, point B, point C, point D, E, and so forth. There is no sandbox aspect to these adventures whatsoever. Just want to let you know. But all in all, I really do like the Grey Knight for Pendragon 6th edition. So on a scale of 0 to 10, I give it an 8 out of 10. I can certainly recommend it. And if you already enjoy Pendragon and your players enjoy Pendragon, you are going to enjoy this new edition of the Grey Knight. All right, that is it for this time out. If you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. It'll not only let you know when I share videos such as this review, it'll also inform you when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Thank you very much for watching. Once again, I'm Jeff MacLeod, and until I see you next time, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.